The Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return, sponsored by Narconon Ojai.
Hello, and welcome to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. My name is Joni Siegel, and I'm the host for this podcast. When a person is addicted to drugs and or alcohol, the myriad of choices of treatment can be overwhelming. Narconon Ojai is a residential treatment facility that addresses the physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of addiction. With a proven, evidence-based, holistic, completely drug-free, step-by-step program to free those trapped by addiction. For more information, call 1-866-231-5924. Today we have an interview with Quincy Carter. Quincy Carter was a player for the Dallas Cowboys, and he will likely go down in history as one of the most fascinating figures in the history of the Dallas Cowboys. In December of 2006, he was arrested for drug-related issues, and now his goal is to become a high school coach. At 42, he's a man who sounds like he's finally comfortable owning all of it. Without further ado, let's talk to Quincy Carter and get his story. Quincy Carter, thank you for being on the podcast today and being willing to share your story.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I just feel that all of the stories that we tell on the podcast, you know, while there's a similarity that either the person or someone they know is addicted, there's differences. And we hope that with every story we tell, that someone listening will take some piece of that and get help. Do you know? That's kind of the whole purpose. So, So go back to your beginning. How did you get started on drugs and alcohol?
I got started with marijuana first. I was 16 years old, actually marijuana and alcohol. I was 16 years old, and me and my buddies decided to go in a local elementary parking lot where, close to where I went to high school at, and we wanted to have a little drink-a-thon. And so we all, went and got 2 40s, a piece, the big Budweiser 40s. And we just started downing them. I downed my first one and, kind of felt happy, I guess. Don't know exactly, can't describe exactly that feeling, to be honest with you. But then halfway down my second one, maybe a quarter in, I started throwing up everywhere. Oh, and and so that was my first experience. But then I smoked weed right after that, because then we rolled up or whatever. I smoked weed right after that, and I'll never forget that feeling. That was the best feeling I had ever felt up until that 16 years I had been living on Earth. I'm talking like I'm dead or something. But yeah.
Well, you were in school, right, Quincy? At that time, yes, you were in school.
I was in high school. Yes.
Were you playing sports in high school?
Yeah, I started playing sports at a very young age: basketball, baseball, and football. And I was doing 3 at the same time during this experience I'm telling you about.
Okay. Did smoking the marijuana, did it affect your athletic performance, would you say?
At the time, you couldn't tell me it did, but definitely, as I went back and started watching films and things like that, I could tell when I was making quicker decisions, and then when my decision making wasn't as quick. And then plus, playing the quarterback position, you got to be on your A game every time you step out on that field, not only for yourself, but for the 10 other guys who are dependent on you. So yeah, it affected my.
It's good to hear you say that, because, I mean, obviously, I'm going to get a little controversial here, that more and more now states are looking at legalizing marijuana recreationally. And, people don't look at what marijuana can do, but you just give a very practical example. You're in a sport, you're a quarterback, you have to make snap decisions. Mm-hmm. If you're high on marijuana, they don't come so quick.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one of the things I'm fighting with these younger kids is right now because, they really do have the excuse of it being legal.
Right.
And I have to explain to them that, you may think it's legal, and it may be legal, but what you're doing to yourself, your body, putting yourself in harm's way, when basically you're playing a sport that is basically a car crash on every down. And if you're off your game, if you're not thinking as fast as someone else is thinking, not only are you, setting yourself up a chance to being injured, but you're actually setting yourself up for failure. And I did that during a lot of years that I played football.
That's interesting because I was thinking about that when you were talking about going back and looking at the films and noticing for yourself that you weren't quite as quick on the draw when you'd been smoking pot. I would think that because I'm not a professional athlete. Okay. I mean, I walk, I'm not a professional athlete, but I would imagine that when you're a professional athlete and you have to not only make decisions as a quarterback, but just make decisions about your body and what your body is doing. And if you're high, I would think that you're much more capable of getting injured.
Yeah, not only getting injured, but you're depleting the nutrients out of your body, so you're not performing at peak level, especially when it comes to the second half and the third and fourth quarter. You're dehydrated. So it's so many factors that goes into why you shouldn't, be using marijuana while you're playing any sport.
Yep. Did you move on to any harder drugs, or did you pretty much just stick with marijuana and alcohol through your career?
No, I eventually graduated to cocaine. Now, cocaine, actually, I had, a few years where I was using X pills also, but cocaine really hit me about 2015. And I had been known to, I actually are saying the word known to, but hey, we think we're hiding our addiction, but we're not fooling anybody. But, I have been, using X pills for quite a amount of years. But when
What's
I got
an X pill? I'm sorry, Quincy. I don't know what that is. An X pill? What is that?
It's ecstasy.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, ecstasy in a pill form.
And did you use that while you were playing professional
No,
football?
not while I was playing.
Okay.
Only smoking marijuana and drinking while I was playing.
Okay.
Yeah, but my addiction really, really took off after I got cut from the Cowboys in 2004 and didn't sign a contract with anybody in 2005 and in 2006. My addiction took off like a 737.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And you were a successful quarterback with the Cowboys, right?
Sometimes I give myself too much credit and and say, I want to say I had this great 4-year career, but I did. I put some pretty good time in, had some moments, but I stopped myself. I stopped myself to where God was taking me simply because, I couldn't stop smoking and drinking.
That's fascinating. So you would say that the drugs and alcohol contributed to your being retired from the NFL.
It played a major part, and it's the reason why I lost my first job with the Dallas Cowboys, and then after that, it's trying to get a team to buy in to trust me, and then
Right.
when you got everybody around the NFL saying, hey, he has a problem, he has an addiction, then who's going to sign a quarterback with an addiction? So yeah, I'm a product of my own, my own doing and my own addiction.
Right. Did you do painkillers at all while you were playing for the NFL?
Something, I didn't get into them. And one of the reasons why I really didn't, to be honest with you, because I was smoking so much marijuana. So basically, I substituted the pain pills for marijuana, to be honest with you. Yeah.
You were still feeling no pain.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
I'm sorry that your career went that way. And I'm sure I'm not as sorry as you are that it went that way. So you got fired by the Cowboys, and what what happened then? Continue with your story from that point.
Well, I went to the New York Jets about 3 weeks after being released, and I ended up playing the whole season with the New York Jets. After the season, I was asked to come back and sign with the New York Jets, but my ego wanted to test the free agent market to see if I could still be a starter in the NFL, and I didn't want to be a backup for Chad Pennington at the time, which, ultimately was a real bad decision considering everything that was being said behind me, behind closed doors. And I mean, they were true. And so I didn't get signed in 05. And then 06 rolled around. I actually signed with the Montreal Alouettes, which came short-lived after getting released from that team after about 3 days of practice because of an argument that I had with the general manager. So, man, things just really, really started to snowball after 2005. And I really could never get it together, put any real time in to stay sober enough for an NFL team to trust to sign me. My best shot was, honestly, is when I met Hollywood Henderson. I ended up going to rehab in December of 07 after meeting him down in West Palm, the Hanley Center, and spent about 2 months in rehab and then about 3 months in sober living. And then, Hollywood wanted me to stay there, really get some time up under my belt, really, work the steps, work a program. And I was half-heartedly doing it. And just got this bright idea to call the arena football team the next day after I had seen them play the Kansas City Brigade, called the management the next day. And, and yeah, they were ecstatic, to sign me. And so I was reaching out for that love and reaching out for things that, that God could have gave me, the program could have gave me. And I went outside of it. And so I ended up calling them. They flew me out 2 days later. You don't even want to hear the conversation or even a rebuttal of it that I had with Hollywood, but you can imagine. And I went up to Kansas City, and I got a shot with the Miami Dolphins 3 or 4 months later in August in training camp. Bill Parcells called me from Miami, which he was the head coach in Dallas when he fired me, but now he was working in the front office as the president now. And they knew just because they couldn't test the drug test that I had, the sample that I gave them, they couldn't test it because I basically, put hot water in the cup because I had started using it again. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
started using it again. And they couldn't sign me. They wouldn't sign me just because they couldn't even test the test. So this thing just really snowballed on me. And then after not being able to get signed by the Dolphins, then that whole just snowball that I had picked up, from getting cut from the Cowboys and, everything not getting signed. It just my addiction just ramped back up for another couple of years before I could just look up and say, hey, dude, what are you doing? That's after 2 DUIs, 3 weed charges. What else did I have? I had a domestic in there. So it just really fell to pieces real fast.
You are listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return. For more information on the podcast or to reach out if you have a story you would like to share with us, go to our Facebook page by the same name, or you can email us at theaddictionpodcast@yahoo.com, or go to our website, theaddictionpodcast.com, or call us at 727-314-7080. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and give us a 5-star review. For more information on our sponsor, Narconon Ojai, visit their website at narcononojai.org. That's NARCONONOJAI.org, or call 1-866-231-5924. That's 1-866-231-5924. Sometimes. The hardest thing about getting someone into recovery is getting them to agree to treatment. Bobby Newman, a certified drug counselor with 30 years experience and an over 85% success rate as an interventionist, has created a series of 12 videos that you can use right now to learn every step to get your loved one to agree to treatment. Call 1-833-918-0008 today and say the word podcast to get a 10% discount. Or go to newmaninterventions.com and type in the word podcast for a 10% discount. This service comes with a free 1-hour consultation with Bobby. Did you have a family at the time? Were you married ever? Or?
I wasn't married, but I think I was working on my 5th child at the time.
Okay.
And by 2009, I actually added 2 more to the family back in 2013 and 14. I've got a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old. So I'm up to 7 kids now.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
So
they're actually right behind me too here, but they're the loves of my life, man.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So what was it, Quincy, what was your point of no return? What was that wake up call where obviously it wasn't when Hollywood yelled at you about it. So yeah. What caused you to get to that point where you said you had to get clean?
Man, it was last year of July. And, it's funny. I was just talking to the young lady just over the weekend about this. And me and her, she was my girlfriend at the time. We went to a boxing match. We went to go watch a fight. It was Pacquiao and Thurman fight. It was in July of last year, 2019. And of course, I was drinking, smoking, snorting coke. And I really, literally from 11 o'clock from the time I got there until 4 o'clock, where I went to the party with my girlfriend, and literally at 4 o'clock, I was calling her to pick me up, and I still don't remember her leaving or anything. And she ended up leaving the party. She said I embarrassed her. Well, the next morning we get into it. And I had been on this roller coaster here for about, 12 years, going to rehab, getting out. I got about 10, 11 months in 2017. And waking up that morning with her, she was pissed, of course. She had a little attitude. We get into a little argument. She leaves. Remind you right now, I'm in an extended stay down in Dallas, Texas. She leaves, and I just started bawling, crying, man. And I picked up the phone and called Hollywood, man, and told them, I said, hey, man, I know I've been told you this before, I said, but man, I need to get help, and I need to get it now, because the thoughts that I had been thinking for over about a 2 or 3 week period is man, I can't do this anymore, but didn't really want to just make that call and just give up and say, hey, I'm all macho, man. I can get up out of this. And I'm, and I made that call to Hollywood, and man, told him, man, he told me, he said, hey, listen, this is my last time trying to help you. Because I've been through this before. All right, you'll get clean. And then next thing you know, you're off to the races. You don't listen. And so that was that moment, man, where I just had to, really, man, humble myself and say, because, the hardest thing is that you've been through this process so many times, and now you got to face all this stuff all over again. And I had to surrender, man, and say, hey, man, this has got to be it, man. I can't keep, living like this, so that was that moment.
Wow. I think sometimes the hardest thing is to ask for help, because we all want to think, I can handle this. I can handle this. And I am sure that there are so many addicts out there who go, I'm not addicted. I can handle this. And to finally, acknowledge the fact that you have a problem and that you aren't handling it, so you need help. That's huge. Well done you for doing that.
Thank you.
So then where did you go? Did you go back to that program in Southern Florida?
No, I didn't. He's got a good friend of his. I don't mean to name drop, but Marsha Stone.
Okay.
She's the owner, CEO of BRC, and he gave her a call. They called me back on three-way within about 3 to 5 minutes. She told me she had somebody on the way. If I really wanted to get clean and sober, it's a great place up in Maynard, Texas, right outside of here of Austin.
Okay.
And they were down in Donna, Texas, in less than 5 hours.
Wow.
To pick me up. Yeah,
So how long have you been clean and sober?
I've been clean now 15 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a huge accomplishment. I mean, it's
Oh yeah.
huge. I know that when you're going through that, you have to do it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Now, let's see, how many, what is that, like 450 days, maybe? Something like that?
Something, I don't even count. I am so blessed to have Hollywood in my life. And I'll tell you this quick story. The reason why I don't even count, because I got guys like this in my life that I'm really listening to now. But I was telling him, this was Wednesday or Thursday, right before his 37th anniversary on yesterday, actually. And I was asking, I said, yeah, man, you got a big day coming up on on Sunday, because it was like Wednesday. I said, on Sunday, you got a big day coming up. And he said, his words to me was, yeah, if I make it. Like, what? So when you got people in your life like that who look at recovery, I mean, to me, those words were like, like he looks at recovery like he just got sober yesterday. You know what I mean? So I couldn't tell you how many days it is, but I can tell you it's 15 months.
That's awesome. Well, because you
Yeah,
have to work at it every day. Every
you
day
do.
when you
You
wake up,
do.
you have the
You do.
choice to either be clean that day or go
Uh-huh.
find a dealer. And you make that choice every day. And I applaud you for making the right choice. I mean, you have you have so much to give, I think, with your story. Do you go around and talk to high school students and high school players and such?
I do.
Okay.
I've talked to quite a few high schools here in the last months or so. I got the honor of doing the University of Texas San Antonio football chapel on this Friday coming up. So I'm excited about that. I've got my own quarterback school here in Austin, but I do camps all over across the nation. So it's plenty of opportunities that have arisen for me to go out and share my story. And man, I'm just trying to come from a point of view of you don't want this misery right here. You know what I mean? I thank God every day, man, for His grace and His mercy to get back to even some respectability of myself.
Yes.
Dang anybody else. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Just
Yep.
for myself to be able to look myself in the mirror, and I can actually smile now, man. So, and I thank God every day for that, man.
You hit the nail on the head. What you have to get back is your own self-respect, and you've done
Mhm.
that. And
Yeah,
until you get your own self-respect, it doesn't really matter whether other people tell you you're doing good. You have to know for
exactly.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We in our addiction, we could care less what anybody thought about us. It was all about that man in the mirror, and that's how
That's
it's
right.
been. And I can actually smile at myself now.
That's
Yeah.
right. I think one of the most special things is you can impart that viewpoint in the people that you train to be quarterbacks, the kids who
Yeah.
come to you, the camps that you run, because you're not someone like me who hasn't had an addiction problem going, "Hey, say no to drugs." You're
Uh-huh.
someone who's saying, "Hey, you want to be a professional quarterback? Yeah, well, let me tell you how to ruin it."
Exactly. And that's gonna be my message on Friday. I can't wait. I don't want to spoil it. It's been a little incident that happened. And so now it really fits into how I'm living my life, the things that have derailed me. And so yeah, I'm excited about that. I really
I
am. But for anybody,
Yep.
for any kid out there. But
Yep.
to really get, because see, this is the age, the 19 to 22, where you're really defining who you're getting ready to be. when you hit 30, the decisions that you're making, and then putting yourself in a position where you are successful, and then you're not chasing, that marijuana or that alcohol or that coke, or you never know where it get to, heroin, crack. I can go on and on. So I'm really excited to talk to this age group on Friday. I really am.
I think that's awesome. I hope that this whole COVID thing blows over and you have a lot more opportunities to do that, because when someone is 16 like you were, you don't look at what life's going to be like when you're 30. And you don't look at what are the long-term effects if I continue to smoke marijuana and continue to drink alcohol. You just don't look at it. And you can get in front of them and you can say, I'll tell you what it looks like. I'll tell you exactly what it looks like when you reach 30. You may think, 30, that's so many years away. Yeah, not so much. You can tell them. I think that's awesome. Hey, if people wanted to reach you and have you come and speak, how did they do that? How do they find you?
You can find me on Facebook on Quincy Lavon Carter. Or you can just look up my email on my website, and my website is quincycarter17.com, and that'll shoot you right to my email. Or like I say on Facebook, I'm Quincy Lavon Carter. But I say the easiest way is on my website though, and that'll be quincycarter17.com.
Great. Was that your number when you played?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
I guess. Okay, I'm going to say it one more time, quincycarter17.com to reach out to Quincy. If you, if any of the listeners, if you have a young child who's playing sports, professional, or playing football or baseball, or what was the third one you did? Basketball.
Well, yes.
Yep. That, you can reach out to Quincy and, get a group together and figure out the details, but he has a good message. And again, it's not the parent saying don't do it, it's the guy who's lived it.
Yeah, buddy.
Quincy, thank you so much for being willing to tell your story. It's huge, and I applaud you for being clean and sober. I applaud you for sharing your story, because oftentimes people don't want to share their story, and your story is going to impact people and save lives. I know it.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to maybe bless somebody, man, to change their life around. I really appreciate it.
I just thought that was a fabulous interview. I mean, here is the story that we know will happen if someone becomes addicted to drugs and alcohol. This guy had basically an NFL career of 4 years, and he could have gone way beyond that, except for the marijuana and alcohol. And if this message can reach young people, if you have a teenager who wants to play professional football and they're dabbling in marijuana or alcohol, hook them up with Quincy, because it destroyed his career. Once again, we're getting close to the holidays, and if you are an addict, if you have a loved one who is an addict, you need to get help, and you need to do it now. Don't wait and say, let's just have the next Christmas with our loved one or the next Hanukkah with our loved one. It's not going to be pretty. While everybody's having dinner, they'll be off sneaking into the bathroom or leaving the house to get high. So get them into treatment. Get yourself into treatment if you need it, but reach out. Asking for help is the hardest thing to do. So once you're over that hurdle, it's downhill from there. Thank you so much for listening. I really enjoyed speaking to Quincy Carter. I hope you enjoy listening to his interview, and we'll talk again next week.
You have been listening to the Addiction Podcast, Point of No Return, sponsored by Narconon Ojai. For more information on Narconon Ojai, call 866-231-5924 or visit www.narcononojai.org. Narconon is a non-12-step rehabilitation program based on the works of L. Ron Hubbard.